Hi everyone, welcome to Training with Kayce, where we explore animal training and living our best lives with animals. I'm Joseph Laughlin, producer of this podcast, and now here's your host, Kayce Cover. Let's get started.
Hey all, thank you, Joseph, for your introduction. And this is Kayce Cover, host of Training with Kayce. And tonight, let's talk about asking permission. So this is another one of those critical safety measures. And I can kind of hear some of you saying, wait a minute, we talked about asking permission in the respect podcast, which was the last one. Yeah, I know. I think we should do it again because I actually believe that asking permission is possibly the single most important thing we can do to keep ourselves and everyone else safe. And the other side of asking permission is to say thank you when we're granted permission. Really appreciate what the gift is that the animal is bestowing on us by allowing us to take liberties like sticking things in their ears and, brushing their teeth and sticking things down their throat. Who do we think we are anyway? I guarantee you, if you tried to do any of those things to me and you didn't get my permission, all bets are off, okay? So we did talk about the fact that respect is so important for safety, but asking permission is the most important thing. Let's go back to getting respect. Lately, around the funeral of Queen Elizabeth, I saw all these videos of British people just pummeling ex-President Trump. They despised him. They were really insulted as a country, at least so it seems, by Trump blocking Queen Elizabeth, by Trump walking in front of Queen Elizabeth, and certain other things. And Queen Elizabeth was a trooper, she wasn't petty. She just tried to get out there in front of him in her country. No one was to walk in front of the Queen of England, except Trump did anyway. When I heard people talking about Trump because of those failures, it reminded me of some other problems where we don't show respect. For example, in Asia, you better not touch the head of somebody else. Let's say you see a spider on their head. You're just trying to help, right? Don't do it. Don't do it. You can end up in serious trouble. If you even cross your legs so your feet are pointing at a person in Asia, you can end up in jail. If you throw your gum on the ground instead of putting it in the trash, if you don't wear a mask when you have symptoms of illness, these are things that are taken very seriously in other countries. And it can seriously land you in jail. So I know, let's just not do them. Let's be respectful. Now, in order to be respectful, you have to see things from the perspective of somebody else, somebody that doesn't think that you're entitled to do whatever you feel like doing. And first and foremost in these things is asking permission. So, what do you ask permission for? I ask when I want to touch the animal. Could I touch you? Could I touch your face? Would you like me to scratch you? I don't just reach in there and do it. Would you like me to scratch you? If I'm meeting animals for the first time, I just open my hands toward them, inviting them to walk in. But if they don't walk in, I don't extend my reach. Now, if they say no, I do honor that also. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But here are some more places where I ask permission. May I hurt you? May I put this needle in your skin? May I take your food? May I take your toy? May I move you? May I stick a needle in you? May I stick a thermometer up your behind? Okay, often now we don't have to do that anymore. Can you imagine what the animals think of us, right? I'm always telling the animals, I have a clinical interest. I have a license for this. And I know my horse does not buy it. So I ask permission for everything. And the other side of asking permission is showing appreciation. So I bridge the animals, just like normal. I mark their success, but I also say thank you. Thank you for letting me touch your head. Thank you for letting me stick the needle in you. Thank you for letting me trim your nails. Thank you for letting me, oh gosh, stick my hand down your throat to grab the necklace you just tried to swallow. How about that one? That's a true life situation. So I'm going to share something. This is really far out there, but remember my dad was an aerospace physicist, so or particle physicist, a nuclear physicist. And we went round and round because all matter has behavior. And according to the rules of physics, you can't predict exactly what anything will be doing at any particular instant, but you can predict it with 95%. So you can't predict it with absolute predictability, but you can predict within 95% many times what it will be doing just because of what it normally does. For example, when you're gone from home, your dog spends 95% of his time sleeping. And that is from actual studies with closed circuit TVs. 95% of his time sleeping. But you can't guarantee that at any instant your dog will be sleeping. What do you know he won't do? Certain things by virtue of his nature. So your dog is not going to be walking upside down on the ceiling, most probably. He's probably not going to be cooking dinner. He's probably not going to be working on the computer. But you don't know exactly where he will be or what direction he'll be turned or anything like that. Okay, so that's one of the rules of physics about the behavior of things. And it works for animals as much as it does for particles. Well, it goes further than that. It turns out particles form relationships. Now, they're not alive any way that we know or what we expect as far as them being alive, but they can be entangled so that when these two particles are made, one will spin clockwise and the other one will spin counterclockwise. And no matter how far apart they spread, if you change the spin of one of those particles, the other one's spin will also change. Ooh. And it goes further than that. So let me just spoiler alert. We're all vibration. We're all expressions of consciousness. We're all living. All things are alive. All things are conscious. We may not be able to commune with every other kind of consciousness, but it's conscious nonetheless. And I've seen this coming for eons because when I was a kid, I remember, oh, there's no life in Antarctica. Well, yes, there is. There's no life on the ice. Yes, there is. There's life a mile down under the ice. There's life in the deepest caverns. There's life in all these places where we previously said there couldn't be life, in the rifts in the mid-Atlantic, where there's constant volcanic action, where the hydrogen cyanide and sulfuric acid are so high that nothing can live there. Nothing except the animals that are specifically adapted to live in those environments that would be lethal to us. So when it comes to asking permission, I just make a habit of it. I ask permission of just about everybody and everything. Every child, my plants, my animals, my friends. I don't care. I'd rather have a right way of being with others and have the right habits than risk inadvertently forgetting myself and insulting somebody else for no reason. Okay? So if I accidentally kick my chair, I'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me." When I put my dishes away, I tell them, "Thank you for your service." Everything that I love, they say the more gratitude we put out there, the more we will draw the things that we have gratitude for. I'm all for that. So I'm constantly stopping for a minute and thinking of my animals and how much richness they bring into my life, how much joy my relatives bring, how much I enjoy just being with them. I make that not just a daily exercise, but if I have a few minutes that I have to wait, I might very well do that. So it's natural if all of these beings are sovereign beings, they're in charge of themselves, they have free will, they may not express it in a way that we readily recognize. For example, scientists have now shown that trees definitely can communicate and they can listen. It's crazy. Did you guys hear about that experiment where they took all these guys and gave them all plants, and then they gave them certain subjects to talk about, and one was their wives and one was politics, if I recall correctly. Anyway, there were two very different subjects, and these guys would talk to their plants or talk in front of their plants, possibly with other colleagues or friends, and the scientists would measure the galvanic responses and changes that the plants exhibited. And what they started to see is that the plants would mirror the topics. So if the guy was talking about his wife, the plant made a certain kind of response. And if he was talking about politics, the plant made a different kind of response. And this was definite enough and reliable enough that they were going to make home protection systems that could be turned on and off by people thinking things to their plants. I mean, is that wild? Now, they didn't do it. And I don't know exactly why they didn't do it, but can you imagine? Bad guys would be killing plants right and left, right? To keep them from being turned on. And not everybody was capable of making clear connections with their plants. But where they were capable, it was very reliable. It was very discernible, the responses that the plants made to the people. We know that plants respond to certain kinds of music better than others. I learned when I was studying how to rejuvenate, rehabilitate spent farmland. So you want to turn it back into woodland and so forth. And the single most important thing that I found was that it's very important to plant tree communities, like 3 of the same kind of tree in like a triangle, so that their roots can interact. And then there's other plants. They like communities. They help each other. Trees are known to even give each other water and food. It gets really wild. I mean, when I was a kid, none of this would have made any sense to me. But now I just look at it and I say, okay, so be it. If they've got the research that shows that, what I'm interested in is, how can that help me? How can that help me help trees and animals and so on and so forth? I don't have any problem showing respect to trees also, okay? And so I just make that habit, and I thank the trees also, and I thank the plants that I work with. When I water my plants, I tell them, you look great. This is for you. I hope you have a lot of great fruit. We're cheering for you. Carry on. See you soon, etc., etc. I even apologize to the weeds when I have to yank them up. I tell them, come back as one of the plants I grow. Okay, so you don't have to go that far, but maybe your life will be better if you do, right? But I surely recommend that you ask permission for everything. You don't just barge forward and assume that it's okay with that animal for you to touch it or take it or anything else. Boy, I can think of a number of cases. One was with a Doberman, and I just stated to him, I would like to touch your head. May I touch your head? He turned toward me and gave me this glaring look as he backed away. The answer is no, don't touch my head. Okay, so I didn't. And usually it's very easy to turn those answers around. The animal needs a little more information, a little more time, a little more chance to see me in action. But it's not going to help anything if I push this animal to an extreme response because I didn't respect his need to know more before he gave me permission. All right, so let's talk about exactly the mechanics of asking permission, because it isn't just going out there and saying, can I do this? Okay. Animals are conditioned to recognize bridges or markers. So when you say X or good, the animal doesn't have to translate that. But when you give verbal information, may I touch your ears? They do have to translate that. You need to give them time. Here's how to judge how much time to give them. In general, they need to the count of 3, not 3 seconds. To the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Tell me when you're ready. Okay, so you'll hear me say that many times with animals, and that's just a way of counting to 3 that also invites collaboration from the animal. So I want to touch your ears. Tell me when you're ready. So how will the animal answer me? Do they all speak English? Of course not. But they do, almost all of them do embody communication. They embody language, and you know a lot of the words that these animals express. So the way a dog wags his tail tells you if he's happy to see you or not quite sure he thinks you're on the up and up. The way they tilt their head tells you that they're curious or they're trying to figure it out. The way they turn away from you, it says, I'm not ready, or they'll invest in displacement behaviors like grooming or looking for food in the grass or sniffing. Okay. So when you see any of those are polite ways of the animal asking, could I have a little bit of time here, please? Now you could get all upset about it. You could say, I'm the animal trainer and you're the animal, and I said it and you do it. Okay, let me know how that works for you. But I'm just not in that big of a hurry. And especially during the teaching phase, because later on, if I effectively communicate to the animal that this is a speed behavior and we are going to ace it by doing it really fast, man, that animal will push, push, push to do that thing quickly. But while we're getting there, they need time to study the situation. They need time to think about it. May I touch your ears? Tell me when you're ready. Sniff, 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 sniff. Take your time. Take your time. All of a sudden, they turn back. They're getting ready. So what exactly will they do? For those of you that are watching the video, for example, on our YouTube podcast channel, then you'll be able to see what I'm doing, but I'll describe it for everybody. I don't know why this is, but in general, when an animal says that he's ready, his eyes will go from side to side for a second, and then he'll hang his head just a little and kind of point to the right. And then he'll get a soft focus in his eyes. And that's him telling me, I'm ready now, go ahead. And I'll say, okay, good, 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 good. That's your ears. I just touched your ears. And then I pull out. So I do exactly the thing I just said I would do and no more. I pull out, I stop back. I tell him, thank you. That was perfect. May I touch your ears for the count of 2? Tell me when you're ready. Good, 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 good. 1, 2, good. Pull out again. And so it goes. You pull out, you take the pressure off the animal, especially if you're working on medical behaviors. When you're standing right up next to the animal, that puts pressure on them. And they can be good, they can be good, they can be good. And then all of a sudden they snap. They lash out. You don't have to do it that way. You can let them relax between every transaction. And hey, it does not take that long. For those of you that have enjoyed the full body x-ray video with the stray cat, it took the vets an average of 16 minutes to do full body x-rays with sedation. We started out with a cat that had no relationship with anybody there, who was a stray cat. He'd been hit by a car. He seemed to be fine, but they needed to do the full body x-rays before they could let him go back to the shelter. And the vet even demonstrates this cat does not want to be picked up. Within a few minutes, during which we were not only teaching the cat and relaxing the cat, but we were also teaching the veterinarian, in that few minutes, the cat totally changed the way he was. And he was following the guidance we gave him. We would tell him, we're going to put you on your back. We're going to pull your back legs backwards. So if you were listening to the Dutch and you weren't quite sure what it was, when they said terug, that means your back. And the achterpoten after, that's pulling your back leg backwards. Klaar is, are you ready? So when you listen to that, hopefully that'll make it more understandable, but it was a bilingual video. The vet spoke mostly in English to us. In any case, after a few minutes, he picks the cat up and he goes, this is a different cat. And he goes, let's go take the x-rays. And the cat, he sets the cat on the table. And I took this part out because I didn't want it to be shown without explanation. He was so excited. The vet was so excited about this. And He was just so compassionate toward the animals and so on. He carries them back there. He forgets to put his gloves on. The one time he forgets to put his gloves on, right? And he also forgot to turn on the x-ray machine. I mean, can you imagine if you've seen life as black and white and you have to anesthetize animals to get this done? And now you've just seen a way that's even faster than that, which saves you the money of anesthesia, the cost of anesthesia, the stress to the animal's body, and so on. And he goes to take the picture of the cat. He gets the cat all situated and starts to take the picture. And he realizes he did not turn on the x-ray machine. So he now looks at the cat and says, I'm sorry, I have to turn the x-ray machine on. I'll be right back. And he simply stands up and walks away. And Erica Bokelman, who's a great SATS trainer, reaches forward to put her hands on the cat to help him stay relaxed and make sure he doesn't roll off the table or anything. And the cat just looks at her like, oh, he'll be right back. He's just going to go turn the x-ray machine on. So the vet comes back and resumes his place with the cat. And the cat goes, is everything okay? You know, and he takes the picture. And now he's going to go to the other side of the cat to put another cassette or to move the cassette. And as he goes around the table, he goes, that's amazing. So then he puts the cassette under the cat in the new orientation and tells the cat, and the cat cooperates with the second picture totally voluntarily. And as he ends that x-ray, he walks around again and he goes, that is amazing. It's amazing because the animals are acting as if they are thinking, intelligent adult beings. You know why? Because they are. They are, so get over it. Just, if you're going to be a good trainer, you must respond to the being in front of you. And all your preconceptions and your prejudices and your limited ideas of what another being is capable of are irrelevant. The fact that they don't speak in our language has nothing to do with how intelligent they are. So, what I find over and over again is if I work, for example, with my horse at a stable or any horse at a stable, a lot of the horses will come to the barrier, you know, like putting their head over the fence or out the stall door, whatever, and watch everything we're doing. And then when I finish with the horse I was working with, as I leave, they'll often nuzzle my shoulder as I go by. They're politely saying, excuse me, I would like to do that too. So I'll get permission from a lot of the owners because it hurts me to not tell an animal. If an animal has an active interest in, communicating across, then I want to meet them halfway. I don't want to ignore them. And a lot of the times, what we're doing is naming body parts or showing distances or durations, like the count of 3, the count of 5, the count of 8, that kind of thing. So I'll just say to the other horse, okay, do you know where your muzzle is? And a lot of times the horse will just press his muzzle right into my hand because he just saw me show this other horse. Well, what about your cheek? Puts his cheek in. May I touch your eye? He'll blink his eye, showing that he knows exactly what that means and he's willing to do it, but he's a little bit worried. He's a little apprehensive. Can I touch your ear? The hardest thing about doing this is you've got to be ready, Freddy. When you say, may I touch your ear? A lot of times the animal will point their ear toward you, but they're not going to necessarily move their whole head because this isn't how they've been interacting with you before. They don't, lead with their ears, right? They generally lead with their muzzle or something like that. So you've got to be ready so that when you say, may I touch your ear? And they start to come toward you, you say, X, that is your ear. That's exactly right. Okay, so I'm going to try it again. May I touch your ear? Good, 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 good. May I touch your ear? Tell me when you're ready. Good, 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 good. Okay, that's all it takes. And I will find that these animals know a lot of words, body parts, foods, locations, activities, the names of other individuals. And there's a lot more that they can learn. Anyway, I'm straying a little bit here. It's about permission, and it's about seeing the independent sovereignty of every being. And I'm not a religious person, but I guess you could say I think of myself as a spiritual person. And in many of the religions that I've studied, the free will that humans have is considered sacred. That you could be, if you see life in terms of the teachings of various religions, the God figure or the forces of the universe, however you like to think about it, could force you to be a certain way. But they don't. They give you free will. It's really a sacred idea. I guess one way of looking at it is it makes your life valid, right? If you have to take responsibility for your actions and what you learned, well, you can't take responsibility if somebody else is making you do things. Well, similarly for our animals, I am very hesitant to make an animal do anything. And I've seen trainers that just thought that was weak. Well, I've spent a lot of time with a lot of animals over a lot of years. And at this point in my experience, I've been doing this over 40 years. I'm not so interested in whether or not the animal will make this high jump and this particular request. I'm interested in, will this animal agree to be safe with us, with others? Will this animal agree to allow me to do his medical behaviors? Will this animal embrace his life and engage with us? Will this animal thrive? Will this animal live to exceed all expectations of his longevity? That is success to me. If the animal doesn't bring me the ball this time, if the animal doesn't heal exactly right, I don't really care. Now, the other side of that is if I do really care and I make it a shared goal with the animal, if I come up to that animal and I say, hey, Ace, I have a challenge. I don't know if we can do this, but I would like to try. We need to, run through this course, this agility course, and we need to go through all these weave poles and over this thing, and you have to go as fast as you can, but you must also touch every contact point, and you must approach the dog walk straight on. If you haven't worked with agility, it's kind of crazy, but if a dog approaches at an angle, they can just kind of bounce themselves right off of the dog walk. And it's very frustrating for the owners. And all you have to do to fix that is make sure their approach is straight on and not at an angle. And it goes on and on. But if I share the rules with them and make it clear that the goal is to go as fast as you can while also meeting these critical requirements, those dogs will turn themselves inside out to do this. Hey, not only that, I want to teach them to read the course. I did this with my horse with dressage arena markings. I could stand in the middle and say, could you go to A? Could you go to F, etc. And she would just head straight off. There was absolutely no hesitation or confusion. Why not teach your dog to read the numbers and understand that the numbers correlate to the order? So you could take the dog through the course, and instead of having to direct them, you could still be there ready to guide them, ready to cue them, but you could just let them see what the course is. Yeah, that would be way more fun. Okay, well, anyway, in working with dogs on agility courses, I have seen them practicing over and over on their own their contact points, increasing their speed while they also meet their contact points. One of the things I loved the best was watching a dog just go on, after doing some exercises with the teeter-totter, he gets up there on his own and stands right in the middle like I'd shown him to do. I showed him how to control the teeter-totter by standing right on the fulcrum, and then just moving his weight a little bit forward, a little bit backward. So he owned it. So he didn't go clumping down and hit the ground when he started to move, but rather he gently caused thing to go down and then could just run down it without, jarring his joints and everything else. So asking permission is one of the most important things we can do. And I ask permission for everything. And I try to always remember to say thank you for the gift of permission. When I ask it, the actual steps, the practical process is, may I pinch your skin, or may I clip your nail, or may I touch your ear, whatever it is. Tell me when you're ready. I watch the dog's eyes flash back and forth, or it could any kind of animal, right? Picking dogs because a lot of people have dogs. The eyes flash left and right. All of a sudden, the head hangs down a little on the right. The eyes get a soft focus. That's my permission. I call that, he assumes the ready permission, the ready position. Here I come. Good, 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 good. That's your ear. I touch your ear. Withdraw. Stand back. Let him experience that. Let him process that. Now I tell him the next thing. I need to pinch your ear, or I need to touch your ear for the count of 3, or I need to put this needle into your skin. Let me show you what it looks like on me. Ow, that hurts. It will hurt you. Are you ready? I need to put this needle into your neck. Tell me when you're ready. Good, 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 good. So the dog does it, or the animal does it. Outstanding. Thank you. That's exactly what I needed. And then when we're done, we give them praise, maybe some reinforcers, that, food or something like that. But these other steps are just as important. Now, how long, just to make it practical, because I just told you a lot of little extra steps that maybe you think, that's just going to take so much time. But if you watch the videos of us preparing dogs for injection, it takes us less than 2 minutes. I was at a zoo and they asked me to prepare a horse for injections. And so I went through that process, and I had to get past the horse's head and get to the neck. So it wasn't like touching the ear where you just reach for the ear, but I had to target the horse's muzzle, like by my shoulder, and then reach around to the neck and be able to put the needle in. So I had to do cycles getting past her eye, because motion going past the eye is often a little disturbing to an animal. So it took 5 minutes. Then we stick the needle in, X, take it out, X, withdraw. Now, you did a great job. That's all there is to it. Thank you very much. I'm thinking that was such a non-event. These people aren't even going to think I did anything. They're going to think this animal was just naturally trained to stand for, blood collection or vaccines or whatever. So I turned around, and they were regarding the whole scene very intensely and very contemplatively. And I said, well, what did you think? And the spokesperson spoke up and said, well, that's a lot better than the last time when she jumped over the stall divider and had the vet up against the wall. What? Gee, why don't you tell the trainer that there's a history? I think the people, they act like I'm a psychic or something. They want to see if I can solve the problem, even if they don't tell me what the problem is. But the fact is most of the time we do. Just by approaching the animal with respect and asking permission, we dissolve away the past problems. If you go and listen to the video with Phlox being taught to allow his vaccine injection, I asked the vet, was that easy? Oh, yeah, that's a pretty easy dog. That's pretty normal. And all of a sudden, the owner of the dog says, yeah, but do you remember last time he screamed his head off? And the vet goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, he did scream. So he's a lot better this time. The dog was so relaxed and accepting that the vet totally forgot that he had been a problem before. And the cat was an Oriental blue or Russian blue, I'm not sure which. And the cat was had his little claws right in the shoulder of his owner. And she did the condition relaxation on his body. And next thing you know, he got relaxed. And then she did the cycles to do the injection. And the cat was really good about it. And the vet goes, oh, is this an easy cat? And the owner, Erica, is just thrilled with her cat that the cat did this well. And so I actually spoke up for her and said, no, this is not an easy cat. Because I had held that cat in their garden. And when somebody else had walked by, the cat all of a sudden panicked, dug his claws into my shoulder and bounced off. This is not an easy cat. But for that moment, for the veterinarian to stick a needle in him, he was an easy cat. And that came from asking permission. Okay, please test me. Never take my word on anything. Test it out. Try this. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you start saying, excuse me to cars or to your chair, or, thank you for your service to your dishes, or, whatever else you're going to test or try. Remember, the scientific perspective is not to cling to a story, but to test everything. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Y'all have a great time. See you next time.
Hey fans, are you enjoying Training with Kayce? Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Kayce Covert on YouTube. That is youtube.com/C/Kayce Covert. Also, give the podcast a like, share, and comment. Thanks for joining us. Come back for more news and views on animal training and living with animals. Stay at the top of the pack with Kayce. This is Joseph Laughlin, producer of Training with Kayce. See you next time.